Previously on electrifying.com.
Now, all we need to do is have a go.
It's just there. I can just do it now. Drive it. No. You sure I just can't have a quick go? Yeah, you're welcome to. The cars are all lined up outside.
So I'll tell you what, if this key just accidentally fell on the floor, and then I happen to find it in my pocket, I'll be allowed to drive the car.
Yeah, it's a driving program, you can drive it.
So I'm allowed to drive the car.
You're allowed to drive, all you need is to drive the car.
So I'm just going to go now.
But before we get to officially driving the e-C4, please do like, subscribe and comment on, well, pretty much anything and everything, because that's how internet algorithms tell us we're doing okay. Plus there's lots of useful stuff on there about nicking cars, so buying cars. I've actually been looking forward to this, because the e-C4 looks pretty good. It's a mid-size pure electric hatchback about the same size as a Ford Focus or VW Golf, with a slightly raised stance and some interesting chonky lines. There's a 50 kWh battery under the floor, producing a claimed range of 217 miles on the WLTP cycle, space of 5 and luggage, and the boot is the same size as the conventionally engined C4s. And there's also some interesting toys to play with.
The first thing you'll notice are actually these super comfy seats. Now, it sounds like a small point, but Citroen is actually really good at upholstering its chairs these days, using different densities of foam and various bits of ergonomic trickery to make sure that your buttocks are cupped to perfection. I have very happy buttocks right now, and I'd like you to think about that just for a second. The second thing you notice is this new dash layout. There's a smaller screen in front of you and then a larger screen up here, but still with the aircon controls for manual underneath. I hope you do notice it, because if you don't, then you need to immediately seek help from a reputable optician.
Everything has a determinedly clean feel, and there's a ton of storage for things you need to forget you own, as well as this little flip-out holder for a tablet, which is a nice touch. It all feels very nicely stuck together and very modern. As ever, there's a whole raft of new systems to keep you in lane, beep and bong, and generally try to stop you having a crash. There's even a full HD camera, which can take photos or videos stored on a memory card built into the rear view mirror, which is ultimately really handy to get an extra 250 quid from You've Been Framed.
And that clean feel keeps going because the e-C4, like all EVs, is supremely easy to operate. You just pick a gear from this little rocker down here, and then off you go. Now, Citroen quotes 134 brake horsepower and about 194 pounds-feet of torque for the e-C4, and that's enough to do most things. Let's face it, 0 to 60 in just under 10 seconds is enough for most people doing most jobs. And as ever with EVs, this thing feels a lot perkier than those numbers would suggest. Basically, from a standstill, because it's got loads of torque from 0 RPM, it just sort of surges forward. It's a lot quicker than you think it actually is. Vision seems to be pretty good, at least forwards, though it has got a really rather chunky blind spot there. There's a small window in the C-pillar, which kind of does nothing, and even though I thought that split rear tailgate wouldn't be a problem, it's been raining today, and the rain is sitting all on the back of the car, and there is no rear wash wipe, so that's worth remembering if you live in a place where it rains, like the UK. But one of the things I really like about this e-C4 is that Citroen is a company that's concentrating very much on being comfortable rather than sporty. It really appeals to me, because if I wanted to buy a sports car, then I'd buy one.
The new C4 has suspension deliberately skewed towards comfort, using what it calls progressive hydraulic cushions that stay firm in the corners and floppy on the bumps. The system was originally invented for rally cars, but here it works, well, really nicely. Better than in other modern Citroens, in fact. And when you match all that to the squishy seats, the e-C4 feels genuinely relaxing. And yet when you drive around a corner, it doesn't wilt or flop about like overcooked pasta.
Truth be told, no, it's not hugely precise, and it's not going to be breaking any speed records, but come on, what are you buying this car for? Are you going to go and do hot laps around the Nürburgring, or are you more likely to be doing normal things with your kids and bags of shopping and dogs and, you know, just general family stuff? Yes, there are 3 driving modes. There's eco, normal and sport. But as with a lot of these cars, it's best left in normal, unless you need a bit more response pulling out a Tesco's car park, or you're playing the range anxiety game and trying to eke out that last couple of miles from the battery.
There's convenience on the charging front too. Now, it gets really confusing when there's quite a lot of new stuff to get your head around, but how fast your EV is able to charge is a big deal. If it has a small capacity onboard charger, it doesn't matter how big the charger is you plug it into, you're trying to fit a hose pipe into a drinking straw. So if you hook a car with a 50 kilowatt onboard charger to a 100 kilowatt charger, it still only charges at 50 kilowatts. Now, various cars come with different onboard capabilities. The Porsche Taycan, for instance, can manage up to 270 kilowatts of charging, but most decent chargers are between 50 and 100 kilowatts. The e-C4 has a 100 kilowatt onboard charger, meaning that if you can find one of the big rapids, it'll charge fast, 80% in half an hour, and that's handy. And generally, the e-C4 is a very rational and well-rounded little thing. I know that most manufacturers are gunning for this does-it-all niche, but that's no bad thing for us, the people that need EVs to be more than just one-trick ponies. It's still relatively expensive at just over 29 grand for the base e-C4, when you consider you can have 130 brake horsepower 8-speed automatic petrol with similar kit for just 24,390. Which means you have to drive a surprising amount of miles to get an EV like this to break even. But them's the electric brakes at the moment.
The truth is that the Citroen e-C4 is another one of those practical, useful, pure electric EVs that feels a little bit expensive when you compare it to its more traditionally powered brethren. That doesn't stop it being very good at what it can do though. And if you take advantage of all the current tax breaks, well, it's a really rather lovely place to spend time. Anyway, I've got to get this thing back before anybody realises that it's gone. So if you want to know anything else about the Citroen e-C4 or any of its competition, please do log on to electrifying.com and you'll find loads more information. And don't forget, you haven't seen me, right?